am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for battle.
Choose a side in the Clone Wars. Welcome to Prattle World. I'm your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to another edition of Clone Wars, where two similar movies clash to be crowned champion. Two films go in, but only one comes out. And we are back for the third part of Western Month, and I've invited the batshit crazy bandito, Andrew Knowles, back to talk two films that have influenced Quentin Tarantino's two massive westerns, Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight. And we're going to look at these classic spaghetti westerns and honour the memory of Sergio Corbucci and Ennio Morricone to a lesser extent in this very podcast. Welcome back, Andrew Knowles.
Hello, you son of a gun, you.
You son of a gun. Pull up to the saloon, strap on your spurs, because we're in for a couple of doozies.
You're in for a bumpy ride, son. You totally are.
Welcome back, and this is the first podcast I have when I have a live person in the room. I've really missed this.
It's been a weird couple of months, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
It's been a weird couple of months, and it's weird now. Everything's going back to normal as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you work at a pub, and that's
yes, I
weird.
Do.
I'm still working from home. Still weird.
Yeah,
it's all very, very weird. But at least we're moving in a positive light. We're moving forward in the right direction.
Well, it's positive the fact that you're sat in my office.
Absolutely.
Man cave comes studio of nightmares.
This is Angry Andy Knowles Reviews HQ.
It is. It's just littered with Star Wars toys and the odd Marvel toy.
A lot of Infinity Gauntlets, Dragons, Gears of War, Uncharted, Transformers.
On one wall, and you turn around, there's literally just Vader staring at you from one.
Yes, this is the HQ. So make sure that you check out Andy's Angry Reviews on YouTube. Fantastic YouTube channel. One of my favourites. I think your latest review was Da 5 Bloods.
It was, yeah. Really good war movie.
Oh, I love a good Vietnam movie, and I have to say I'm super pumped for that one. So I'm
definitely
give
that one a watch. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Don't watch Artemis Fowl. And let's not talk about that. But again, I did a review on that, and it's awful.
More like Artemis Fowl.
See. He's a man of words.
I'm me and my words.
You're a man of words, boy.
You come in with your words.
Come into my establishment.
Well, I mean, we are moving forward in a positive light in the real world, but these films do the opposite in some ways. So we're going to talk Django. Yes. The original 1966 version, directed by Sergio Corbucci, and the 1968 The Great Silence, also directed by Sergio Corbucci. Was the last Clone Wars we did, was that Robo Geisha and the Machine Girl?
Yeah, it was, and that was by the same director, wasn't it?
It was.
So,
we can't remember his name for the life of me.
No, I can't either. I remember the films, remember the...
Absolutely remember those films. Yeah, check that podcast out. Yeah. That is a mad one.
But these films are supposedly or named as part of the Mud and Blood trilogy.
That's right.
By Corbucci, and the final film, which we both only discovered, wasn't it? What's it called? It's called The Specialists.
Yes.
And that was released in 1969. Right. So we'll have to watch that.
We're going to have to finish off this trilogy, the Mud and Blood trilogy. So I'm going to bring up the reasons for comparison before we get started.
Excellent.
So I've chosen these two because they are both considered spaghetti western cult classics, and they're not as heralded as the Sergio Leone films that you'll know, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah.
And so on, Fistful of Dynamite, all those great films, which are very, very good. They're both directed by Sergio Corbucci, both part of the Mud and Blood trilogy, as we just mentioned. Both are named after the lead character.
Yes, they are.
And they were both made within 2 years of each other, which is usually one of the things I have. We have with the kind of twin films phenomenon, don't we? We have a lot of
Armageddon, Deep Impact,
exactly,
Independence Day, Mars Attacks, even though they're completely different films, but yeah,
but you can
still came out at the same time.
There is still room for comparison, absolutely. Yeah. And also, these films were both so violent, considered so violent at the time, that they were not released in the UK until the 1990s.
Decades. That's like nearly 35 years.
Yeah. And then they were like, why did we ban this? Like, there's a lot worse stuff out there now.
At the time, both of them in Italy were considered the most violent films ever released. And people didn't know how to react to them. But obviously, like you said, they became cult classics.
Exactly. Like, obviously, there would have been bootlegs in America,
definitely.
Bootlegs in England. You know, these films will have been seen.
Tarantino said it himself, didn't he? He found copies of them and watched them. And I'm pretty sure my nan somehow had a VHS of The Great Silence. I'm pretty convinced, because I think that's how I watched it.
Is your nan a pirate?
Well, no, I don't know. But she must have got it from somewhere, because she's a big fan of Western movies and the Western thing, you know, wow. the American Indians, you know, all of that stuff, and how it's changed, you know, and how they're called Native Americans and things like that. She's a history teacher. Of course, so she was a big fan of like how perceptions have changed, you know, from the old, the cowboys were great, and then how it's, you know, it's evolved over time. So I'm pretty positive she had this film, but I don't know where she got it from, and I need to ask her, because that's kind of like, it's burning on me. I'm like, Nan, how did you get The Great Silence when nobody's been allowed to see it up until 2002?
I will say this, like, this was a hard film to find even now, like, given you know the access we have.
You couldn't have picked two harder films to bloody find. I mean, thankfully one of them was on Amazon, but The Great Silence, God Almighty.
Yeah, good luck finding that, guys. I picked a hard one. I didn't realise it was this hard to find. I thought there was a DVD release, but I think you can probably find some like multi-region DVDs, or like
I mean,
region 3 or 4, possibly outside the UK.
There's no official Mud and Blood trilogy release yet, which is unfortunate, because I really wanted to pick that up.
I imagine probably somebody will get a hold of that. Someone like Arrow Video, or
because
108 Films, or 101 Films. I think
because Arrow have like I think it's Arrow, or it might be another one that has like a Western release thing. They started releasing Western classics, you know, like remasters of like Magnificent Seven and all that a few years ago.
That would make sense. I know they do a slashers classic with loads of slasher films.
Yeah,
so
I mean the glory of Blu-ray and 4K, and I think I saw in my research for The Great Silence is that there is a 4K remaster coming for The Great Silence, but whether that's going to be North America or whatever alone, I'm not entirely sure.
I think let's get started.
Let's get cracking. Let's talk about this.
Well, actually, just before we get on, like, you're a big fan of Westerns.
I wouldn't say I'm a scholar of Westerns. No. I have a very select few Western films that I absolutely adore, that I can rewatch over and over again. But for me, Westerns as a genre is extremely significant because of what comes after it. So we're sat in a room surrounded by Star Wars stuff. True. And Star Wars is a Western. And without these Western classics, you would not have Star Wars. You would not have so many other genres of movies. You could even look at Blade Runner and go, there's hints of Western in there. You know, things like that. You know,
lone gunslinger.
Exactly. Yeah. So Westerns, the genre itself was in cinema for decades. It ruled the silver screen for decades, and you know, whatever you think about Westerns, you can't just not acknowledge the brilliance of them.
You can't bypass Westerns without including all of cinema. Yeah. Like there was hundreds made. Hundreds and hundreds, and TV shows as well, and they went on for decades, years and years and years, and the influence that they had, even Star Wars, it's part Western, it's part samurai movie, exactly. It's part King Arthur epic, it's all of those things, and again, like even The Mandalorian is pure Western.
Oh yeah, the Mandalorian is just a Western in every sense of the word. It just has a Star Wars coating on it. Yeah, it's just painted in Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Western genre. I don't like all Westerns. No, I don't. I'm not particularly a fan of John Wayne's movies, to be fair, but it's just what they've done for cinema in a very broad stroke.
Even going as James Mangold Logan, like Wolverine film.
Oh yeah, the Western influences in that.
Absolutely,
the lone gunman fighting for people that can't protect themselves. And that's essentially what the film is. And then the hero dies on his sword, almost quite literally. Yeah. That is the epitome of a Western. the hero puts everything on the line, and sometimes the heroes ride off into the sunset. Sometimes they
don't.
They pay the ultimate price, which the sacrifice, as it were. And
I think you're absolutely right. I think without westerns, and that's kind of why I wanted to do a Western month. And the fans and the fans voted. All the Spider fans or all the listeners, they voted for this month specifically.
Yeah, I think I voted for it as well. I saw you put it up. I was like, do a Western.
Do a Western. We've got to do a Western.
For God's sake, Dan,
you're here. You're here for it. So let's look at firstly. I'm with you. I don't really like the kind of classic westerns. Probably except for
the clean westerns.
Yeah, so
it's like when it's like the cowboy rides into town and
white
fights
hats,
off the
black hats.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of that. However, I do like High Noon. The original High Noon is good.
Well, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I mean, there are a number of like films in there. Like I said, I don't really like John Wayne's film. Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, I do appreciate True Grit. I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah.
There's a few moments of it where I'm a bit like,
yeah.
But they're not all bad. There's a couple of John Wayne movies where he is actually a bad guy in them, and they actually work a lot better than the clean ones. But for me, it's where the hero rides in, kills all the bad guys, rides off with the woman, and your happy days. I like a bit of mystery. I like character depth. I like blurring of the lines, and that's what both these films are about to talk about do.
Absolutely. A lot like High Plains Drift I was discussing last week, there is a moral ambiguity. There is a moral greyness.
That's key for me with Western, because everybody is out for something in the West. That's what we get now. That's what we look back on. The West wasn't a beautiful thing. People were out, for their own personal gain. Yeah, okay, there were people that went out, to get, start a new life and whatever, but it was brutal. It was hard. People died en masse. You got to remember the Native Americans were still out there. They were fighting for their land, for their rights. It was a war zone. It was a very literal war zone. I like to see that. I like to see the moral ambiguity, like you said. I like to see, the depth of the environment as much as the characters. I want to see the struggle. That's what works well for a Western for me.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I spoke a lot about revisionist Westerns in the last podcast.
Which is what these are.
Exactly.
Both these films are
absolutely revisionist Westerns. So let's get started. We've delayed it long enough.
Yes, we have.
Let's talk.
But it's all necessary.
It is necessary. We need a bit of context. Pardon me, but we need a bit of context to kind of come up
purely because the genres are that broad.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That you can tell, and I think it's much like a kind of a Shakespeare play. There's many ways you can approach it. There's many ways you can play with that kind of genre.
It's probably the most fluid genre out there, other than science fiction.
I think there's a lot of places you can go with a Western where, a lot of conventional stories you couldn't. And I think these films absolutely kind of typify that. Two films by the same man, but have totally different aesthetic, look, feel, message. They're totally different. And that is due to the talent of Sergio Corbucci.
Yeah, and there's only 2 years in between.
Yeah.
It's madness, really, that
and
everything changes.
And he was shooting out Westerns. Westerns were the cheap, easy, quick to make. Yeah. And, they were back to back. And when we say spaghetti westerns, this is, if you don't know what that is, it's basically Italy's version of the American Western. Yeah. Their take on the American Wild West.
Yeah.
So it was all filmed in Italy, dubbed in Italy. Most of the stars were Italian.
Yeah, because it was the environment. The environment matches a lot of places in the West, like Utah and Arizona. The grounds in and amongst like the hills of Italy, it looks like it's been lifted straight out of North America. So that's why I did it, because and it was cheaper to film as well.
Absolutely.
But like you were saying about, they were just hashing out Western movies left, right, and centre. A lot of Western movies were sharing the same environment, the same set.
Costumes.
So the dubbing,
characters.
because they were filming so quickly and getting them out literally within a couple of weeks, they had to do the dubbing after, purely because another film had rolled in, so they couldn't do a cut. Oh, we'll refilm that. They couldn't do it in a lot of cases.
Yeah, they do similar things with a lot of the like Dario Argento movies. They'd be like building a set in the next room while they were filming like this really intimate scenes.
Yeah, so your audio is just buggered immediately.
It's rubbish.
And purely because they were just doing it on the fly, you'd get audio in the background of people, shouting and whatever. So they literally just
some Italian guy swearing in the background. Which you don't want.
All of it. It's incredible, really. I wish there was like more sort of like, the making of things, like lost footage, because there is a lot of lost footage out there, and some of it has been recaptured and brought back, and really is an eye opener when you get that kind of stuff. But It really would intrigue me.
It's a wholly. I mean, even we're talking like 50 years ago now, but that even back then it was a totally different world. The idea of filmmaking, the way you made films, was totally different,
completely
bizarre. Kind of like we'd look back on it now. Like I always thought it was quite amazing that with Into the Spider-Verse. They decided they wanted to animate Peter Porker the Spider Pig in hand-drawn animation.
Yeah, which was brilliant.
They've forgotten how to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody knew how to do it anymore. Like that's a dead art form.
In literally what? Well, you got
20 years.
20 years. You got like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. They were hand drawn.
Yeah.
So in less than 20 years, the art of hand drawn animation has died,
and nobody knows how to do it anymore.
Madness.
So they have to relearn how to do that. That's crazy to me, and it's the same with these sort of films. Anyway,
yes,
Django.
Django. Yeah, because we were going to start it and then carry on.
We did. We love a good tangent here.
Yes, we do.
Spider-Man: The
We
Secret Wars.
do.
We do love a good tangent.
It's usually my fault as well.
No, it isn't. No, it's me too. I allow you to do this. So, Andy, give me roughly, as best you can, the plot of Django.
Well, it's obviously it's the same classic sort of like drifter comes into the situation and he comes across a woman being brutalized by what looks like a Mexican gang.
Yeah, kind of like bandits.
Yeah. The banditos, classic banditos, and he saves her obviously, and then gets drawn into a big sort of gang war, if you like, between two factions.
Yeah. So the other faction is led by an ex-Confederate general.
Yeah. Which is brilliant.
Yeah, great stuff. I'm going to go into the kind of their outfits and the red bandanas and everything later. Don't you worry. But Django is clearly, he's wearing a Union.
Yes, he is. Yes,
he's wearing a mourning outfit, in mourning, but he's also wearing the trousers of like a Union soldier.
Yes, you've clearly got the distinction there between the two characters. Well, all three. If you want to say characters, so you've got the Confederate Army, and then you've got the Mexican gang. They're just three different characters, aren't they?
Yeah, essentially.
But what's brilliant about the entrance of Django is that he's coming over this hill, and it's quite a long opening, isn't it? A long opening shot, and he's just dragging a coffin with him, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Doesn't really make any sense at the start. You're like, who is this man? What is he doing?
Who's in the coffin?
Yeah.
What is the coffin? Is he an undertaker?
Exactly. Yeah.
What the hell is this?
But yeah, he just gets dragged into this conflict. But obviously, he's got his own motivations as well, which underpins the entire film.
I also like that at the start, these Mexican bandits are attacking this woman. They're kind of stringing her up. Are they whipping her? I think they're whipping her.
Yeah, they string her up and then they whip her quite brutally as well.
And you're like,
there's spares no expense in showing you the markings that she gets, which is like immediately sets the tone for the film. You're like, wow, this is a violent film.
I quite like that Django's just stood there for a while.
Yeah.
Like, again, this is the moral ambiguity we're talking about, is that he stands there and smokes a cigar while he watches.
Yeah.
He watches all this go on. And then all these gunshots go off. Bam, 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 bam. Really quick gunshots. All the banditos are down. Yeah. And you're like, oh, Django shot them. No.
Yeah.
It's this other
absolutely not.
It's this other group of soldiers, and they rock up, and you're like, oh, that's cool. There's some like army guys or something nearby, so they've saved her. Absolutely not. They start bloody torturing her as well. And Django's still watching.
Yeah, it's just like a conveyor belt of misery for this woman, isn't it? It's just it's completely... And he's just stood there the entire time watching everything unfold. I can see why immediately it was shocking, because it's like, why is he not doing anything? Why is this man on the hill not doing anything?
He's Django.
He's supposed to be the hero.
Exactly. And
even in that time, immediately you just see him and think, oh, he must be the hero, because the camera's focused on him the entire time. But okay,
it's that's it. It's where do the heroes end, where do the villains begin?
Yeah,
that's the kind of the moral ambiguity
which is
of the West
is a big thing for me with Western movies. I like to have that sort of that blurring between, like, you're not sure who you should be rooting for.
Django does eventually save her.
He does.
He shoots the Confederate soldiers
brilliantly as well.
I think some of the kind of things I read online, they call this group the Ku Klux Klan, but I don't think they actively name themselves or say they are the Ku Klux Klan.
I read that as well. Yeah. I read that as well, but I wasn't really convinced by that, because they wear red bandanas. like face full head covering, but there's nothing to suggest in the film that is the case. Yeah. I mean, they are that. I think they're just bandits themselves.
Yeah, they're a kind of a criminal group.
Yeah, I think it is literally just to simply say that's one group.
Yeah,
they wear the red bandana. Yeah. The other group is the Mexican gang, the Mexican banditos,
and they dress this way. Yeah, this is how we differentiate the villains.
I think it is just very simply that, because there's nothing in the film. There's no moment of racism. Other than interaction between the two groups, between the Mexican banditos.
I mean, they don't like each other. Yeah, but I don't know if it doesn't devolve into like slurs or anything like that. They're like,
it's literally just
we don't like you. You're the other gang,
isn't it? Yeah. So I don't buy into that. I don't think that's the case. But it's interpretation, isn't it? Because the film literally doesn't really give you too much.
No, really in
that regard.
It's pretty bare bones. The film. It's pretty straightforward, bare bones. It did kind of remind me of like in Batman they have the Red Hood gang. So it kind of reminded me of that because they're all wearing the red hoods a little bit. But there's a fun fact as well about the film that apparently the red bandanas were the idea behind them was to cover their faces because all these other westerns were being filmed and all the attractive looking extras were taken. So these guys were the more unattractive extras.
You know what? I buy that.
And
buy that purely because it's going to be clear that the extras who were wearing the bandanas were the extras for the Mexican cartel
for the other gang
as well.
Exactly.
And some of them gentlemen weren't exactly the most attractive. So you got it's almost a bit
homely
stereotype,
looking.
Homely
looking.
Yeah. The stereotype sort of like Mexican bandito character.
Yeah.
So I can buy that. I completely buy that.
And apparently they weren't very menacing either. Apparently, so that might be why because the Mexicans are they're caked in makeup. There's a lot of makeup
there
on
is
them.
A ton of It's really obvious in this film as well.
Just layers and layers of makeup.
To make them, because obviously they're probably Italian stars, aren't they? So obviously they've done some kind of like mechanics to make them look more menacing.
Yeah, basically. I think they give them like scars and stuff and a few other things as well. I think we see, but so we got Django kind of after that rides into town. And this town is just awful. It's like a ghost town. It's either the best or the worst town in the world because the only thing there is a brothel.
You don't. I mean, it's brilliant. It's typical sort of like this is my first film that I'm directing. Well, it wasn't, but it's that kind
low
of thing.
Budget,
like,
very
low budget. So it's like I've got these buildings on this back lot, but I've only got enough cast to operate this brothel. So I'm going to make it look like the town's been deserted, but the brothel's still going. It's fine.
These two gangs, and that's where the female character, she was with one gang or she was associated with one gang and then she betrayed them, went with another gang, and that's why both the gangs don't kind of take to her.
That's why they were both going to destroy her.
And that's why Django rescues her, blah, blah, blah. And this town, I can get what... I wasn't sure why it was called the Mud or Blood trilogy until I started watching this and I went, oh yeah, because this town is just mud. That's all this town is, it's mud.
That's a shrewd thing from the director because... A lot of the westerns were like, dry. It's all dry. It's all dry.
Yeah. Sand.
Even if you look at Back to the Future Part 3, it's dry. The set is dry, but you got to think horses are going through that place at every moment. They're shitting. There's people probably pissing in the streets and that. There's no irrigation, if you like, as well. There's no plumbing, so it would make sense that the place would be muddy. If you look at Deadwood, for example, the TV show Deadwood, that paints it perfectly as well. The streets are always muddy. There's always churning because you got the carriages going through, horses going through. So stuff is being churned at every point. So I think it's a very shrewd sort of like, no, this is a realistic interpretation. There is mud and there is blood.
And again, it's different.
Yeah,
it's something we haven't seen.
Yeah, because it's messy. Immediately, it sets a tone as well. You go, okay, this is not your standard affair.
This is your standard western.
This isn't your granddad's western. Mud. Something so simple makes the difference.
Yeah, I have to talk about the.
This is what I think you're going to
say. The coffin. We've got to talk about it. The coffin is one of the more iconic elements, and the design of Django and the way he looks is very iconic. He's the hero, but he's the hero, quote unquote hero of the film, but he's dressed totally in black. Classically in westerns, the people who wear black, wear the black hats, are the villains.
Yeah, the man in black situation.
So exactly. So and he's walking into town. He's killed these guys. The general comes and he's like, I need to kill this general because of reasons.
Yeah.
And then he
literally
kills all the other guys, and it's a great little shootout because he's like shooting behind his head.
Yeah.
And really quick draw kind of Western. And then he's bringing the whole army. He's bringing all the red hooded army. He's bringing it down, and he's just behind this log, this little tree.
Yeah, this really tiny log that holds no positional advantage whatsoever, and you're just like, what the hell are you going to do here?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah. He's
Why are you not up in the top of a building or something?
Exactly, do something like have some sort of advantage. Getting like, you're right in a kind of a kill box situation kind of there.
But the setup is brilliant. Setup is brilliant because you're thinking all that and you go, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah. You see like 40, 50 men
easily
riding towards
all the extras they could afford.
Everybody is coming towards them, full pelt, and you're like, what's he going to do? How could he possibly manage this? He's behind this stupid little tree branch thing. What could he do?
He's not even sat comfortably behind the tree. He's kind of like slouched going, well, I'm going to die, so I may as well enjoy it.
And he's not well hid either. It's like his head's like poking out.
He's literally looking over the top of it, sees them all coming and goes, oh, well, I'll just duck a little bit.
Yeah.
But then they're all pointing at him from a distance going, he's there.
And again, they're coming en masse. They want to get really close. And then all of a sudden, coffin opens and he's got this huge Gatling gun that you've never seen.
Yeah.
And just mows everybody down.
I mean, literally, it's like the best scene in the entire film.
Absolutely.
Well, as I say that, there's another one later on that we'll talk about, which is really, really funny, which we've talked about before. But, my God, considering that I didn't really know what to expect, the whole mystery was like, what the hell is in this car? He's still dragging it out when he gets behind this log. He's dragging it out and you're like, Christ, it can't be that important. Oh, but it bloody well is.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely brilliant. He just lifts it up, places it on the log, and everyone, literally everybody, all the extras get mowed immediately.
Yeah.
There's no niceties. They're all gone. They're all gone.
That's it.
It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
And again, another very iconic image is him with the chain gun or the Gatling gun. And just fantastic scene. It's just totally out of nowhere, totally unpredictable.
And it looks ridiculous as well because it's clearly designed to look like sort of like, I don't know, like, because it's not even like the Gatling cannon they had at the time. No. It's clearly
kind of like
parts
it's
from
a
an
cylinder, but with like holes in the end.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all
holes.
because it doesn't spin, and it's the bullets are on like a chain.
Yeah,
so they feed in like they would do for what you'd imagine like a German heavy machine gun from World War II. So they feed in through that way. Yeah, they come out of all these different holes. So it's utterly ridiculous, but because of how brilliant the scene is, you go, oh, well, okay.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. I'll forgive that.
I'll buy it. I bought it. I did buy it.
I did buy it.
I paid $1.
But yeah, the general gets away, and it's revealed that he actually killed Django's love interest. In the film, and that's what the song is all about. Django lost his love, or however it goes, which is a ridiculous song in itself.
Yeah, well, Tarantino kept it for his.
He did,
it was remake, which isn't a remake.
No, sorry, it's more.
It's its own story, isn't it?
Reimagining.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous song for a ridiculous western, but it fits.
It does.
It
really fits.
Weirdly.
It really fits.
But I quite enjoyed it. Like it's pretty by the numbers as a western as I conceive of them.
Yeah, I'd agree because it does follow a very simple trajectory. It gets a bit convoluted in the middle when he decides to join somebody to do a bank robbery.
Yeah,
to do a mass robbery, and then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's killed off the Red Hood gang, we'll call them, and the bandits come, and it turns out he was in prison with one of the leader of the bandits. You know, let's go rob this place. Yeah,
but again, it's part of his plan, isn't it, to try and set them all up, and it does work, but it feels a bit out of place. It's like. I feel like the massacre should have happened maybe towards the end of the film, or I don't really know because it's difficult to judge.
Yeah, I think there's like it becomes this heist for gold with the Mexican bandits teaming up with Django. I felt that should have been at the start.
Yeah,
because then we come back to the general who survived the Gatling gun bit because he said, "I want to keep him alive for reasons." Yeah, he's like he can be useful, but he's not useful. It never becomes useful.
No, it doesn't make any sense really. Yeah. It's kind of like they just forgot what they were doing at some point with the script or whatever. But
who knows? Who knows what they thought. But yeah,
it's the bit that we talked about it that we both love after the robbery's taken place and Django's, I don't know what he's doing, but then he takes the coffin outside, doesn't he?
He says he wants to leave because he wants to take his cut, and they say no, we're just going to leave it there. Pours it in this like abandoned barn house or something. Django then gets a prostitute to strip off.
Yeah, and he says, just keep doing that while I disappear. And don't worry about it, you just keep going. You just keep doing it.
Slowly taking your clothes off, and you've got these leering Mexican guys like, the banditos like, oh, she's pretty.
Again, it's a horrible stereotype what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Which is,
absolutely horrible stereotype. But Django then sneaks in, all the while he's carrying his coffin.
There's no mystery what's inside the coffin anymore. He can just,
we know.
He can just carry the Gatling cannon.
Yeah, I never thought of that. He could just
carry the Gatling cannon, but he decides to carry this big hulking coffin.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it does play out why he takes the coffin with him.
Yeah, true.
But still, you're like, why? At the time, you're like, why are you carrying the coffin?
Really
everybody knows
Don't
what
worry,
it is.
It gets weirder than that. Like that is weird point number one.
He carries it outside the brothel, across the rooftops, as slowly and as quietly as possible. It's about a 10-minute scene where he's just slowly dragging this coffin.
And he's checking if anyone can hear him and all this sort of stuff.
And this poor prostitute is still taking clothes off horrifically slowly.
Yeah. Climbs down a chimney with the coffin, lowers the coffin down, climbs down. Then he finds the gold, takes the Gatling gun out, sets the Gatling gun up, gets a bit of rope, ties it to a stick of dynamite.
Yeah.
And so he's put the gold in the coffin.
Yeah.
He then lights the dynamite,
which is attached to
the Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Which then blows a hole in the wall.
So he can get out.
Sets off the Gatling gun, and then it starts shooting the door. All the banditos are made aware of this by the noise. Run up, as the door is turning to splinters, they run into the door and get shot. Then several other people run at them going, what's happening? Also get shot while this door is becoming splinters. And that happens for I don't know how many men get killed.
I think
by just running into the same door.
I was trying to count. I think I got to about 15, 16.
15?
Yeah. And they all just literally run in a line as well, so they all get killed. They all get mowed down in a line, conveniently enough, as they're heading towards the door. Before somebody goes, "Oh, what is he doing?"
Yeah. Let's walk around the bullets.
But it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
So ridiculous.
It would have made more sense if it was on a timer.
Yeah.
And he purposely blows the wall out, so when they're coming, then it goes off after
ticks
off.
So
he sets them up. But it's the fact that the gun's going off first, and they all go, "Oh, what's that noise?"
Bloody ridiculous.
Quite literally walk into the line of fire through the door. You're like, "What are you doing?" But it's just a marker of the film.
Yeah.
It's that ridiculous, but it works. It's really, really funny.
You can kind of see the flavour in a lot of this flavour within the Tarantino's own movies.
Yeah, definitely.
There's even a sequence where an informant of the Red Hood gang gets his ear cut off. Quite brutally gets his ear cut off. And they try to make him eat it. Yeah. Which is going further than Tarantino ever went.
Yeah. But that is a clear Chuffed influence right there. When I saw that moment, I went, that's where he's got it from.
Reservoir Dogs.
Got it from there.
That's exactly right. The only thing I didn't like is that when he gets shot, he's covering his ear, and then he gets shot, and then he uncovers his ear. You see his ear; he's still there, and then he falls and dies. I was just like,
brilliant.
Just at least cover it up, or fall on your hand, or something. Yeah. I was just like, it's clearly still there.
But what I love about these two films, what really tickles me is when people get shot. It's the old fashioned way of people getting shot. I mean, films nowadays tend to have it where they just flop, they're dead immediately,
like squibs and stuff coming in. Yeah,
but these films, they do like all this pirouette dancing, don't they? Where they're getting shot and they're really melodramatic.
It's like ballet or something.
And when this guy who's like you said with the ear thing, a simple thing would have been to if he falls down, he's dead. Still cover your ear or even makeup. Yeah. No, he does a whole 360 turn. I've been shot, and he gets shot again, and he spins and he trembles and he falls, and it's
drama school day one.
Yeah, I mean it's brilliant. But again, it's the old style of film, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the classic way, and I think you've got to bear that in mind when watching like old films. Is the way that it used to be a lot more theatrical, a lot less kind of photorealistic and realistic acting and subtle acting.
It's part of the charm of westerns when you see somebody get shot off a rooftop and they go ah, flail their arms, then fall through a catwalk or something straight into a barrel that then blows up. That's the quintessential thing of a western.
I tell you what, a great example of that in the film is when the general is so evil, he's just shooting random bandits, letting them run and shoot. He lets one get to the top of this massive hill.
God,
and
I forgot about that.
And shoots him, and he tumbles down for about 5 minutes.
Literally, that whole sequence, like you see 3 people get shot. He lets them run about 20 yards, and he shoots them. And this one guy goes, "Yeah, okay, let him go," and he just runs, and the camera tracks him.
Yeah.
The entire way.
It's a really long shot.
And then it goes up the hill. It's like quite a steep hill as well. So he gets all the way up this steep hill, continuously tracking him, and then he gets shot and then rolls down. It must have been about a minute and a half of this poor extra. The director's clearly gone,
running up.
Just go and run up that hill. And he goes, "Yeah, okay, sure." And then when you hear a smack, that's when I want you to roll all the way down. You want me to fall all the way down? Yeah.
All the way down.
All the way down.
All the way
and
down.
you see him literally cartwheel all the way down this hill.
All the way. Oh God, it was funny. Did you know actually obviously Tarantino we said didn't remake this.
Yeah.
But are you familiar with Takashi Miike, the director, Japanese director?
Maybe if
did Audition?
Yes, yeah. Okay.
Ichi the Killer.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah.
He actually remade it as Sukiyaki Western Django in Japan, which had a cameo by Tarantino.
Bloody hell!
Yeah. So
how long ago was that?
A few years ago now. I think.
Was it before Django Unchained?
I'm not sure. I'd need to check. No, I'm not sure. I can't say. Can't say either way. But I think. Clearly, like this film is a huge influence on filmmakers and film in general.
Definitely, and even the ending. We're heading towards the ending, aren't we?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Even the ending is set up, and it has so many influences on other films, just purely because of the way it's set up.
Absolutely,
the hero Django, he gets horrifically maimed, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, so he gets both. So he's got him and the prostitute that he saved in the start of the film. Journey off with the gold in the coffin, and they get to a rickety bridge and accidentally.
Which you see at the start of the film, don't you? Yeah.
Just where she's been attacked and strung up, whipped. They drop the gold directly into quicksand.
Yeah, I thought it was a setup. I thought it was a ploy.
Yeah,
but it's like literally, it's like it adds
rifle goes off, scares the horse. Coffin goes in the quicksand.
And then she gets shot and killed. And it's like, oh God, this is...
No, she's not killed, actually. She survives.
Oh, she does survive. Beg your pardon. But it looks like she's been killed.
That's right.
It plays it that she has been killed. And I wonder if they did change that at the end.
It could have been,
because it was horrifically dark.
It was, because she's trying to save Django. And then saves Django only
because if you see the shot, there's a shot when she gets hit, she kind of rolls over and she plays it completely dead. There is a shot when she's lying flat back on the bridge and you can see there's blood all the way down. So I wondered if they did change it to make it go...
So it's a slightly less bleak ending.
Yeah, it's a little bit too dark.
Maybe.
I wonder if they did that.
Possibly. But yeah, so Django comes out and the banditos are annoyed that he's robbed from them.
Of course. Even though they've got thousands of tons of gold themselves.
They're like, it's fine. We don't need that. Because there's this big heist in the middle of the film, which is great and a really good set piece. I was thinking like the movie is almost like 3 different set pieces, kind of.
It is, yeah. It's almost 3 different movies in itself.
Yeah, in a way,
well.
like little vignettes almost that are just tied together very loosely. But yeah, so they smash his hands with a rifle. They smash both of his hands, ruin his hands because he's the master gunfighter. So what are you going to do? You're going to take away his hands.
It's the most brutal part of the film as well because you see it entirely as well.
Oh, yeah, every kind of smash into his hands is awful, and it's proper red raw and horrible. And he's still being quote unquote the hero of the film, like doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing. Yeah. And he's like, I've still got to kill the general because he killed the love of my life.
Yeah.
And they're like, your hands are broken. He was like, I'll try, And then we go all the way to this amazing graveyard scene.
Yeah, I mean, the set is beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's a really, really amazing looking set. And the entire setup for that scene is brilliant as well, because you see him prostrates himself up against a gravestone, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
And again, it's one of those, it's like we said about the guy climbing the hill who rolls down.
Yeah.
It's a long shot of him literally trying to position this one revolver on a gravestone. And it's aching. When I was watching it, I thought, "Oh, come on, you can do it! You can do it!" It gives you that feeling, like, you know, the feeling you get in the pit of your stomach. You're like, "Be careful! Don't nudge it! Don't nudge it!" And he does nudge it. And you go, "Oh, you
dropped it!
Fucking hell!"
Drops it, tries it again,
because he's constantly looking up as well. It's what was brilliant about the actor who plays Django, Franco Nero.
Yeah,
he has these. It was his breakout performance as well.
Yeah, breakout role.
He has these little moments where he's trying to position the revolver and he's looking off into the distance. So he knows his time is limited. He knows they're literally going to be there any moment. It's great that the actor Franco Nero has that. You know, he's playing with that for himself. You know, like, I've just knocked the gun over, and you see him look off into the distance and go, if they come over now, I'm dead. I'm dead. So he literally wraps his like elbow around to try and push it back up. And it's a painful scene because you're like, how are you going to get out of this? Yeah. How are you going to survive?
Yeah. And all the characters are asking him that all the way through, like, how are you going to manage this? And this is the part of the film where he's like, he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a backup.
It literally is just...
It is him. Yeah. It's the showdown. It's the quick draw. Yeah. It's the Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
That is it. And he's got two broken hands.
Yeah. And the brilliant thing is, because he obviously can't get his fingers into the gun.
Yeah.
Into where the trigger is. So you see him trying to chew off like the covering. I can't remember what you call that covering.
The ring.
Yeah, the ring that goes over the trigger. You see him trying to chew it off and pulling it off.
Yeah.
Using basically, clearly they put some like massive gloves on him and said, "You try and do it with this. You know, try and do it." And he manages to do it. So there's literally just a trigger, bare exposed trigger, but the payoff is brilliant. It gives you, it's so tension filled, but the payoff for the scene when the general arrives is just absolutely brilliant.
So we get the general arrives, and it's just like the six guys, including the general, and you're like, no way. There's no way this is going to happen. Yeah. And the general starts playing with him and shooting him, and he's like, I'm going to count down the moments you have left, or the seconds you'll be alive.
Yeah.
You know,
classic hero play. Lets him talk the talk, and then...
Exactly. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, count these! And he gets the gun on the side, and then he just slams the hammer down 6 times. Kills everybody.
Brilliant. Everyone collapses exactly the same time as well.
Boom. Just like pure symmetry.
But it's the imagery that follows that as well. So they're all dead, and Django gets up and he leaves the gun resting on the gravestone, and it's just caked in blood. And directly underneath where the gun was that he had it resting is just caked in blood as well. So his hands are literally falling apart after he's hammered back the hammer and the trigger.
It's
just caked in blood, and the camera just stays behind the gun, the gravestone, as he walks over the hill, and he doesn't really look at the bodies either. He just carries on going into the sunset, as it were.
It's it's like the camera doesn't move. It's just
it just
right
stays solid there,
and he's just like right at the top of the screen, the tip top of the screen of the frame, and he just looks back and then walks off.
Yeah, and again, it's a long shot. It's literally one that lasts for about 2 minutes, I think.
I read that one of the shots they were like, just keep going and going and going as far as you can, Franco, and we'll just get this really long shot, okay?
Yeah.
And he kept going, and he got to the top of this like hill or whatever. He turned around, all the whole film crew had left. They'd already filmed it. And they just left Franco Nero up there like.
That must have been for the opening montage.
Yeah,
because the opening montage is him literally just climbing over these hills and things with this coffin. And I could just imagine him going, should I look back and have a look? No, I'll keep going for a little bit. And then turning around, literally nobody there.
It's like into the river Styx, the gates of Hades. Don't look back. Don't look back. But yeah, I really enjoy this film. Again, it's fairly straightforward, bombastic, violent.
Bombastic
Western.
Is the key word.
Yeah, bombastic, very bombastic, and it's got all that Italian kind of verve, like that passionate, eye and flavour to it as well.
Yeah.
I love it.
The only thing that lets it down for me is the dubbing. I wish I could have watched this film in the original language with subtitles.
Jesus,
because obviously we're going to talk about The Great Silence. The Great Silence is in the original language.
That's right.
With Italian dubbing, obviously, but subtitles.
Yeah.
And it works. It works better. It feels more like
more genuine. I think.
Genuine.
And it feels. It's not a very good dub either. Like I think if it was a better dub,
I recognise the guy who did the voice. Yeah. For Django, I recognise that voice. It
didn't really fit Django for me.
No, it didn't. It didn't because
that was off-putting for me.
Yeah, he's a very Franco Nero. I've heard him in other films since. I mean, he pops up in Django Unchained.
Franco Nero, I have to say, is a sexy man as well.
Yeah,
like,
he's got a very deep, gruff voice.
Yeah, he's in Django Unchained, isn't he?
So it's like you needed to find somebody who matched it, but obviously. These films are so fast and turned around so quickly. It's a case of, get whatever. You do
it. You know, someone was telling me that like the Godzilla films, the dubs for them often didn't have a script. So they would just make it up. Yeah. They would just make the dub up. They're like, "This is space titanium," and shit like that. And you're like, "Okay."
But again, it's endearing for those films because it is literally, crafted with that in mind. It's like, well. Just do it.
Exactly. Just crack on with it.
In some cases, it does work for Django, the dubbing. I mean, there's like the saloon owner. I thought his dubbing was okay.
Yeah, his was better than most.
He's on the end of a horrifying ending, isn't he? He's like trying to protect the
brothel and the prostitutes.
Protect the brothel and the woman. He says, "Well, Django wants to meet you in this field." And he gets blown away completely. You're like, fucking hell, this is how dark and bleak the film is. He's saying he's not here.
He's a simple, friendly businessman just trying to do his job, trying to help when he can.
Yeah, and he just gets completely blown away, and it's like, oh man, it's horrific.
There's a similar character in The Great Silence we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just quality stuff. This film was so popular in Italy that almost every film that Franco Nero did and several other films were named Django. They had Django in the title.
Yeah.
Apparently there's 30 unofficial sequels to Django. Mm-hmm. One official sequel where Franco Nero comes back and Sergio Corbucci produces.
Yeah.
And that's 1987's Django Strikes Again. So I've not seen that either.
No, I've not either, to be
fair. Might visit it maybe someday.
I mean, the thing with all these sequels is they were literally riding on the hype, riding on the bandwagon of Django. So they literally have no connection whatsoever.
The different characters.
They don't even feature Django. In some cases, they're literally called Django, but there's nobody called Django in the film.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like
that is Italian filmmaking a lot of the time. You'll see a lot of that.
They were literally riding on the bandwagon because it was such a successful film, even though it was hyper violent and people were horrified by the violence.
Oh, absolutely.
It was massively successful.
And there you go. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it's a good solid spaghetti western. Yeah. It does everything I want with a spaghetti western. So yeah, I think it was a strong entry, and I can see why Tarantino loves it as much.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see the influences right the way through with Django Unchained. Even in the smallest moments, like the way people get killed in Django Unchained is very much as dramatic and ridiculous.
It's very blatant, very violent, over the top ridiculousness. Even like DiCaprio's performance is very much hyper realism, that hyper over the top. And that's exactly the right kind of performance for that film. And is needed. But maybe
and that's what you get in this film as well. You get hyper realistic.
I was just thinking that the idea that they're the Ku Klux Klan, maybe that actually comes after people have seen Django Unchained. They go, "Oh, these guys are the Ku Klux Klan."
Yeah, probably.
Maybe they're trying to connect that kind of racism.
But I think there's several jokes in Django Unchained about the hoods where they're saying, "I can't see shit."
Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
That's kind of what happened in this one as well. I read a thing basically saying because the red hoods. I mean, if you watch it, you can see they can't see anything through these hoods. Shit. So that's clearly an inside joke from this Django 1966 to Django Unchained, where literally the characters are going, "I can't see shit through this hood,"
Yeah, exactly.
Because quite literally, you can see the guys in these red hoods in Django can't see shit, and they're just marching in a row, and then they get told to fall down.
I think you can see them adjusting the masks as well.
There's one guy. He's walking through, and his head, he's literally tilting his head up, So he's looking to the sky just so he can look down the ground, and you can see him. He's like holding this massive rifle, and he can't see where he's going in this muddy plain. He can't see anything, but it's brilliant.
The mud. Well, I think we've covered Django, so I think we should move on.
Agree.
Ever so slightly. So let's talk about the following film, The Great Silence. What do you have to say about this one?
I absolutely loved this film. Of the two, I think, obviously Django was the first film. It's not a sequel. It's not a sequel. There's no connections whatsoever other than the director.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love this film.
Franco Nero was definitely supposed to be the character Silence.
Yes.
But he wasn't available. He was doing something else. I think he was doing Camelot, I think.
Yes, he was, because I checked out his IMDb thing, Yeah, it was definitely... you can see the character was made for him. Silence is.
Yeah.
There's literally no vocals from him at all.
No.
But this film, I think, this is the epitome of the revisionist Western. It is absolutely fucking bleak.
Yeah.
Completely bleak. I did not expect it to be as dark as it is.
Neither did I.
I'm a very dark person. I like films where...
I have the blackest of hearts.
I really like films where, they subvert your expectations in the right way, where things don't, go as you're thinking they're going to go. And this film, I thought, okay, everything's going to be fine. Here's the hero. I was a victim of, my own assumptions about a Western.
Yeah.
Even though I try not to have those expectations. Yeah. And very literally, this film completely subverted everything in the right way. A lot of people talk about subverting expectations in a negative way because of what happened with sort of like The Last Jedi and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
But this film, The Great Silence, is the perfect example of how to do subversion perfectly, because forgive my language, but fucking hell, it is fucking bleak.
It is bleak.
It is bleak to the point where I finished it and I messaged you and I was like, fuck my ass. That is horrifyingly bleak.
It is.
But it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
No, it's done in the best possible way.
Yeah, purely because it has that ambiguity. And that's the key word, I think, for this podcast. You've said it, I've said it. It's the ambiguity of the characters, the moral ambiguity. Who's right, who's wrong, who is the villain, who's the hero. In The Great Silence, it blurs that line pure white because it's set in snow.
Absolutely.
So literally you cannot see the line because there is no line, because the film is set in the snowy mountains. And I think that is the genius of Sergio Corbucci. He literally set it in the mountains, something that was so rare in a Western film, where you can't see anything because you're blinded by white.
Yeah.
You're blinded by... You're snow blind at every turn. And that is brilliant.
And snow blind moral-wise. They can't tell the difference between right and wrong. You as the audience can't tell the difference between right and wrong, but neither can these characters.
Exactly.
They are just doing what they can, what they think is right, what they believe to be the right thing for them, given that situation.
Yeah.
But is it truly the best kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's so, like you said, it's the bleak, stark whiteness of the setting, which is just reflected in the characters. It's cold and unforgiving, like the characters in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
There are light moments. There is friendships made. There's a love scene.
Yeah, definitely.
But these are like tiny little specks in the bleak.
Yeah.
All-consuming cold
that
this film has.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the tiny little moments of joy and whatever, but they're completely eradicated by the sheer brutality of the world that they inhabit, and that to me is like one of the quintessential things about the West, because the West wasn't a good place. It was harsh. It was really, really harsh. It was a harsh environment to live in. You were basically picking up your life if you were moving out west and restarting. You could be anywhere. You could accidentally set up in native territory and you would die. Yeah. You would literally be killed. Or if you got that far, great. But if you didn't get that far, you were killed by the elements. Yeah. And that's the thing with this film, with The Great Silence. The elements, the howling wind, the cold, one of the opening scenes you see is a horse dying, in the snow.
Yeah.
That is it. That's the harshness of the West, in the mountains.
You literally can't depend on anybody but yourself.
Exactly. You can't even depend on nature because nature will kill you. It will destroy you.
I mean, you can't even depend on a gun. It's that cold that the guns don't work.
And you see that in the film as well. Yeah. You see that in the film. And that's why I think this film is absolute genius. This is, for me, The Great Silence, even if I have seen it when I was younger, which I'm not entirely sure of, but I think I have.
Yeah.
Great Silence for me, having seen it only 3 days ago, is now one of my favourite Westerns. Because of how absolutely brilliant and dark it is, how bleak it is, because it tears down the rule book for a Western. Absolutely. In 1968, when Westerns are still, they're entering that dark phase with Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Once Upon a Time in the West and all that. They're entering that dark phase, which would lead to, further down the line with 3:10 to Yuma and all that.
Yeah, exactly. The more modern ones.
Tombstone as well, coming into the 90s. They set the tone. That's, it's everything for me, that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. This is now one of my favourite Westerns. The current rating on Rotten Tomatoes for this film is 100%.
Yeah. Admittedly, there's only 7 reviewers, but those 7 reviewers matter because they've looked at it.
Yeah.
They could have watched it as soon as, as recently as us, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's only
2018, I think 2018, 2017, there was a major release for The Great Silence in cinemas.
Yeah.
The first time in 50 plus years that's happened. We'll get into the kind of the ending and stuff later on. We've not even really started discussing this.
We're just gushing about the brilliance of the film.
It's just
it needs
superb.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not
superb.
even guilty about taking up your airtime talking about it because it is that fucking good.
It is that.
It really is that fucking good.
I would recommend anybody that likes Westerns, even if you don't like Westerns, I still watch this.
Yeah, 100%.
Regardless,
fight through the choppy dialogue. The dubbing. Fight through it all. Just fight through it.
Just do it because it's worth it.
Enjoy like the visuals. The visuals. We talk about like the connection between the Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
The snow. That is where Tarantino's got his reference point.
Yes.
For the Hateful Eight, the bleakness. Everybody's an arsehole. Everyone's a villain. He's got that from this film.
They are the Hateful Eight because it is just pure hate.
Yeah,
it's unabashed hate for each other and again, you don't know who to root for.
Yeah,
and which is just like this film. And even the carriage ride that Kurt Russell and I think Samuel Jackson.
Oh, it takes about 45 minutes.
Yeah, so just fucking
brilliant.
There's one of those in this.
Yeah,
nowhere near as long. But the intensity and the tension is the same.
Yeah, 100%.
It's absolutely the same, and it's just so good. And I'm glad that he took as much kind of like reverence for this film.
Yeah, and it's not just this simple sort of like connection between like all the way the characters interact with. It's literally the environment. The environment, the setting is a character in itself.
Absolutely,
because you know that people will die of exposure in the snow. So both films, the Great Silence plays up to it brilliantly, majestically, because literally you do see a horse succumb to exposure. Literally 10 minutes into the film. What
other Westerns do you see that? Just like a horse dying a natural death.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of time the horses are the first things to get shot.
Yes.
And then they have a standoff and things like that. But here, there's no connection to anything. The guy is just literally going to rat on Silence himself, being, he's coming, the guy's coming, he's just doing that, and the horse dies halfway there. It's really, really harsh film. But it's fucking brilliant.
It's good.
If you can get it, just get it. If you when the car boot sales reopen and everything, if you see it, just sat there, DVD of The Great Silence, pick it up, just buy it.
Yeah,
just fucking buy it.
I'm pretty sure there may have been a UK DVD release, but
I think there was, but it's out of print.
It must be out of print by now.
But like we said at the start, I'm pretty sure they're doing a 4K remaster of it.
I hope so.
Hopefully it gets released because I will buy it immediately.
Because this is a beautiful film. Like that's the the haunting thing about this film, as bleak as it is beautiful.
Yeah, beautifully shot.
Beautifully shot. These wide open vistas, these kind of Colorado, Utah mountains, wherever they are in the film.
Pretty sure they say Utah in the film at one point, so I think it is like Utah Peninsula or something like that. Peninsula, mountains rather.
And it's great to see like the way they dress is even the costuming is unlike any Western you've ever seen.
Yeah,
the scarves underneath over their heads with the hats on. There's a comment I think about Loco, the villain. Why does he wear these women's furs and stuff? I don't know, but I like it. It's a great look for the character. It's a unique look for the character.
Well, I think that's just it. It's just born out of necessity, isn't it? Yeah. So literally the characters, the way they're dressed and whatever, it's survival. No. It's survival in they're not too bothered about getting killed in the shootout.
No.
So much as they are dying in the middle of the snow. In a horrific way.
Yeah. And that's just awful.
Like you were saying, it's beautifully shot, and the music in this film is by Ennio Morricone, who has recently
just passed away.
This week at the time of recording, he's passed away, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
But it's brilliant. The music is everything. Like obviously we'll talk a bit more about Morricone, but the music is a character. The score is a character.
And it's not unlike any Western score you've ever heard.
No, and I love Morricone's score for obviously The Good, the Bad and the Ugly.
Yeah.
I love his score more so for Once Upon a Time in the West. And I was like, again, I assumed, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to come here.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, the score is haunting and terrifying as well. Yeah, it's really terrifying.
And there's these moments where it's like, and it's subtle as well. It's not this.
Oh, it's not grandiose.
No,
not
it's
at
not.
All.
It's not bombastic or over the top or what you would expect from like a Western.
Yeah,
it is this subtle kind of underpinning of the whole allegory of this film and the ideas and the themes behind this film. But then when it does ramp up, it doesn't ramp up in the way you think.
It uses like reverberations.
Yeah,
so
like
you hear
it,
and then you hear it going, and you're like, what's that noise? What is that noise? How are you doing that? But it works because the environment, it's almost like the score is sort of like reflective of people, struggling to get through things. It's hard to describe because
it is hard. It's hard to pin down what's so great about it.
Again, it's like, because you can talk about scores for like obviously Batman and things like that, for Star Wars. You know what they mean, what they symbolise. With this score, because of what it does and how it changes the feel,
you know what it is?
It's really hard to sort of pin down exactly what it's trying to make you think.
And I think what it is, I think the idea is, I think that we can't pin it down is because it's reflecting, again, that ambiguity we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we don't know if this character, we should be like, it should be a big fanfare.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, because there's no theme for any specific character.
No.
So, like, the score that I really love in Once Upon a Time in the West has, specific themes for the characters. So you got the man with the harmonica, which is, and then you've got, the big spectacle. The West itself has a theme. One of the characters, I can't remember his name, which is horrific. His theme is boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, no,
in the Great Silence, there's nothing.
No.
In fact, the only thing you could say that has a theme is the environment itself. Yeah. It's literally like the course of the film is, if you don't kill each other, I'll kill you.
Yeah,
that's what the environment's saying. I think that's the brilliant thing about the film and the score. Morricone saw that. He went, I'm not going to do a theme about the characters. I'm going to do a theme about their surroundings and how, if they get stuck out there, because there are a few moments when the characters get stuck out there, and that's when you start hearing the ding, 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 ding. And it's like, fucking hell, it's a countdown.
Yeah, here we go.
You better get out of here, because it's going to count down, you're going to die. You're going to die of exposure. Oh, God. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I might be completely off that.
Well, we'll unless we can find like an interview, what he said about it, or how he composed it, or someone who knew him.
God, if there's anybody listening that knows, for God's sake,
get in contact. Tell us if you know why and how he composed this, the reasons behind it, because this easily is one of his best scores.
Yeah,
easily,
and it's probably one of his most forgotten as well.
Against all of his classics, he even did work on The Thing, didn't he? John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes, he did.
Not all of it, because obviously Carpenter had he's quite musical himself,
but he had the more like maybe the string kind of things.
Do you think maybe Carpenter saw this and went, Snow, Morricone.
Of course.
Yeah, we've got to...
I think it'd be foolish not to sort of like acknowledge that as a possibility.
I think that's got to
be.
But
you got to think, if a director's going, I want Ennio Morricone for my score.
Because Carpenter loved westerns as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
like he always wanted to do a western.
Yeah,
but they were all out of style by the time he came along. Like,
well, you got to think the thing is kind of almost westerny in the fact that they're all like. Yeah, I'm not sure who you are. Who are you? Who are you? Yeah, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. Who are you? You know, the men with no name. Even though they know each other, the creature creates that mystery. Like nobody's really sure who anybody is anymore. Exactly. So that is essentially like a western. They're all the man with no name. Yeah. They're all the mysterious strangers.
And they're all against. Everyone's all against each other.
Exactly. That's quite a broad view of it, but.
I mean, Assault on Precinct 13, Carpenter says, is a remake of Rio Grande.
Of course, definitely. Yeah. Of course it is.
There you go.
It's just got
it's just
heavy
a
machine guns.
It's just a police station in modern day. That's it. Yeah. That's the only difference.
But again, it's the thing in Tombstone, isn't it? You know, the OK Corral and things like that. You know, it's sort of these films, these old westerns, just influence so much. And this film, The Great Silence, I think, has a lot of hidden influences purely because clearly only auteurs and hardened directors saw this film.
It's like, even though, like you said, it's only got 7 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, all 100%.
Yeah.
But I still don't think enough people have seen it.
No, but it's worth mentioning this film was heavily criticised.
Absolutely.
People fucking hated this film in Italy. It's completely contrasting to Django. People hated this film.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is to do with the ending, because the ending is that horribly brutal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go anywhere that anybody was expecting. And, you know, like, you know, today, in, you know, today's movies and media, when something doesn't go how they expect, like The Last Jedi,
for example,
you know, and Rise of Skywalker, people launch and you go, that's not mine. That's not mine. I don't like it. It's not my Star Wars. It's not my whatever. It's not my Marvel. They did the same thing with this film. Yeah. They went, that's not my Western. Exactly. I don't like it.
Exactly right.
Fuck off. I don't like this film.
And the producer, with the response from that, didn't release it in the UK.
Yep.
Didn't release it in North America. Didn't release it in Europe. The rest of Europe, anyway.
I think Germany had it, though.
Yeah,
pretty sure
probably because of Klaus Kinski, I think.
I think that was, they were one of the few countries, like Germany, Austria, I think Denmark had it as well.
Okay.
But, you're right, they literally put a lockdown on it.
Yeah.
Purely because the Italian audience went, fuck off, that's not our Western. We don't want that shit.
For almost 30 years.
Exactly. But this is just saying, like, you know, criticism on that scale isn't a modern thing, you know, because of social media or whatever. It literally has happened before with Westerns, because if somebody does... Certain musicals have had it as well. Where they go, that's not my fucking musical. Yeah. We don't really...
I don't like that arrangement.
Yeah.
You know, fuck it.
It's happened. You know, there's a few musicals. Natalie's got a few musicals that, you know, hardly saw the light of day because people went, shit that, because it doesn't follow the same tropes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it
tries to do something different, and it doesn't.
Yeah, even though you cancel, you know, whatever people saying, redo Star Wars, and that rumour's going around at the minute.
They won't do that. They're not going to redo it.
But it's the same thing. It was like, remake it or put it in the bin.
Yeah,
and that's what they kind of did with this. It was a case like, well, we'll have to put it in the bin then.
Yeah. And that's it.
And they locked it away for 30 years.
I one of my favourite facts about this film, and about the ending specifically, was one audience member in Italy. I think it was Italy.
I think I've read this one.
He was that upset by the ending.
Yes.
He fired a gun in the cinema. Yes. He fired a gun in the cinema because he was
in
not
Sicily.
Happy.
It was on the island of Sicily.
Yes, Sicily,
so literally, you can imagine he must have been a member of, like, you know,
something.
Yeah, something. And he's clearly, I would love to see it. Like, the ending of the film happens, and he just casually stands up and goes, oh well, fires a full-blown pistol straight to the screen.
I'm not happy. Can you imagine someone in the Star Wars film doing that?
Just get someone who goes, well, I actually brought a real lightsaber. Here you go.
Zang. But bloody hell, that's mental.
But I mean, we haven't even talked about anything in the film yet.
We've not even got to the plot of the film.
I mean, this is how good the film is.
Yeah,
and this is how, like, it's a victim of the time.
Yeah,
because it is that good.
We were
but it is clearly that harsh that people just went, we can't handle this. We can't handle this. It's too much. It's too violent. It's too bleak.
But it's like we've like the ending is based in truth.
Yes.
It's based absolutely in fact.
I could not believe when the title credits came up and it came up with the massacre of blah blah blah, blah, and I went, oh fucking hell, this was real.
Yeah.
Oh, of course they.
Yeah. It's a fictionalized version of something that occurred.
But the basis for it.
But the basis is real.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, fucking hell.
I think we've got to actually talk about the film somewhat.
Yes, sorry, guys.
We've talked around the film.
I'll quote Hannibal. Push him in. You can always say it was me. Blame me for the rambling. You can
absolutely
blame
not.
me.
It's all good stuff. It's all good shit. I want it all. I want it all. But I do think we've got to get the kind of the gist of the film.
Because we've not even started comparing.
No, not even starting comparing. It's fine. It's fine. How much? Yeah, we're well in. Don't worry. It's fine. I don't mind. We can split this. I'm good with that. As long as it's all good stuff, I don't mind. Cool. So. The film starts now. This is the part of the film that I have issue with, because I think part of it was my own fault for it was subtitled, but I forgot how quickly Italians speak.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
It took me a little while to kind of get up to speed with their speed.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to grasp. But the opening is basically Silence rides in. Again, it's another long shot. Beautiful, gorgeous cinematography.
Over these snowy mountains.
Gorgeous. Oh. He rides in and these bandits attack him, or these bounty hunters, I think, attack him.
Yeah.
And very quickly you get a lot of...
That opening gunfight is brilliant.
It's great, don't get me wrong, but it's very quick and very jagged.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to describe it. It's very like, done.
Yeah. But it does that thing where it's literally like, he comes in and he knows.
Yeah.
He stops his horse and he's like, I'm in an open space here. I can see everything.
Yeah.
I know. And it holds it just a little bit to where you're going to go uncomfortable. And then, pow. Yeah.
They're all dead. And then these other guys kind of come up. And now I believe in because initially so there's a character in this called Loco, who's the villain of the piece.
Well,
quote unquote villain. But he's kind of posited in that light.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of bandits running around, and I didn't pick up on a lot of the dialogue at the beginning. In this town called Snow Hills?
Snow Hills, yeah.
There is a man called Polycut?
Yeah, very difficult name.
Yeah, I'm going to say Polycut.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll go with Polycut. So he is basically effectively kind of the town mayor. There is no sheriff. There is no law in this town. There is no law. There is this man who is effectively like a banker / mayor /
He runs the entirety of the town.
He basically runs the town.
Literally.
Now, what has been happening is that the resources have become so low and so scarce that he has risen the prices of things and raised the cost of things, that it gets to a point where people can't afford to pay him.
Yeah.
So they have to become criminals.
Yeah, they have no choice but to steal to survive.
To live, to survive, like we talked about, this harsh environment, this harsh, cold climate, this morally bankrupt place only gets worse because of this. Now, at the time, there are still bounty hunters or bounty killers, as they're called in this movie, that will, because there's no sheriff, they have to hire these bounty killers to stop the bandits. But this guy is very corrupt and has a past with Silence, the gunslinger. That's the name of the main character. We'll get to that very shortly. But he's, depending on the person, he'll raise the money more. So there's a character called Pauline, who really surprisingly, this is quite again quite a woke film for the time, because it has
definitely.
Not only does it have very strong female characters, all the characters, the female characters, they don't budge for anything. Even in this harsh environment, they will not budge an inch.
Yeah.
In whatever regard, because they know who they are and they know that's the right thing to do. But there is a black strong female lead in this film, and not only that, there's an interracial love scene.
Yes,
and this is in late 60s, so this is still probably quite controversial.
I'd be interested to know whether this came before the Captain Kirk.
Yeah, maybe
Kiss with Uhura.
That would be interesting.
It's just come to me now.
Yeah. Again, like that's again, it's culturally, it's quite different. As well. And do you think maybe that might be another reason why it didn't go over to the US?
No, I don't. Oh, that's a good point. Actually, I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably never know. But,
no, well, yeah.
But there's obviously this, America can be, and as we've seen recently, a very racist country, depending on the particular people we're talking about. Not all of them, obviously, but there is that. And, within the UK as well, and within lots of other places around the world. But historically quite bad in regards to racism. Yeah. Speaking of racism, this film was actually inspired by... So Sergio Corbucci was anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian.
Yeah. Hence why he created these revisionist westerns.
Exactly. The characters in the film are... capitalist, authoritarian, and he's very left-wing. And he was inspired by the killings of Che Guevara, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, JFK, all these people that their causes were somewhat strengthened by their martyrdom.
Yeah.
Which is something that kind of comes to play at the end as well, especially.
Definitely. Especially with this film.
Especially. Again, we'll get to that. We'll get to the ending eventually. You can see that throughout. The allegory in this film is crystal clear, as white and as clear as the snow that it's painted across. Definitely. That allegory is very clear. And Pollycut is one of the villains of the piece. But again, you could argue that he's doing what he needs to do to survive.
Yeah. And again, like we said before, it's the brilliance of this film is that the ambiguity with all of that. Because obviously the idea was to settle the West. It was to civilise the West. So one could argue that this capitalist man is the future.
Yeah.
He's a businessman. He wants to set up a business. He wants to set up a trade post to get people to come and to expand the area.
A captain of industry, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, that's what underpins a lot of later westerns. Is that idea of the heavy machinery is pushing out all the old ways, all the and unfortunately, a lot of the characters in this film are the old way. Yeah. There's no room for them.
And again, they're in an isolated area. They're in an isolated town where potentially they wouldn't often get those kind of that new Western, that new age of industry would be coming to them because they're out in the sticks.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get to like a town like that without a horse.
Yeah.
In this era.
I mean, you can imagine like the early West period was sort of like people going in and running furs and tobacco trade and things like that. You can imagine that at once upon a time that this particular outpost, this area, probably was teeming with business. And it explains why a lot of these people are struggling to survive because that business no longer exists because of the railroads coming in, things like that. The good thing about these Western films that do this kind of thing, that they explore the ambiguity, is that you can paint pictures of where things might have gone wrong. Yeah. And it's quite clear that this trading outpost, this area where the film inhabits, has fallen away. This is the old world. You're going to die if you don't move on and find something different.
Exactly.
And it does happen.
Not unlike what, big company. I work for a big department store in the UK. That's having to alter the way it does business now. Yep. It's a similar situation.
Pretty much every business isn't.
Every business is having to change how they operate, how they balance their books, how they pay their staff, how they hire their staff, the roles that they play. It still happens. This is a very kind of. It's still topical today, even though the film was set like 100 years ago. I mean, and the film's bloody 50 years old. Yeah, itself.
I mean, you only have to look at like the old ghost towns in America today. The old there's still a lot of old Western towns with the old wooden buildings still standing because they were abandoned because things moved on. The railroad didn't go that way, or the resources like gold or silver or whatever dried up. There was nothing more to get, so they left and moved on. It happens, and that's what happened in the West. That's why things changed so drastically, and they changed over a period of 30 years, if that. That's a very quick space of time for a lot to change.
Yeah, and it's drastic. And like I said, even now, like a lot of these companies that are moving on to kind of like online sales and pushing that, that kind of infrastructure wasn't there.
Yeah.
So now they're having to create it instead of like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And they are doing. And unfortunately, they're going to be casualties.
Yeah. There are definitely going to be casualties.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the film.
Yes, back to the film.
Back to the film. So
the capitalist man.
Polycut, the capitalist man, the captain of industry, and now he's made these people bandits.
Yes.
Like, he's forced them to be bandits.
Yes.
And Pauline's husband is now a bandit and is forced to come out, and Polycut is forced to hire these bounty killers, and they are having to kind of enforce everything. Yeah. However, there's these bandits. I'd honestly admit they're like, we'd happen to be taken alive.
Yeah.
Just so we can get some food, or we can be, we can be taken in somewhere warm, because we're just trying to survive in this cold environment.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit where because initially the town doesn't have a sheriff, and I think the character's called Fred Wolf. He's probably my favourite character.
Yeah.
I think it's Sheriff Garrett. I want to say the character's name is.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And he's basically said, "You're going to be the sheriff of this new town. It needs one. Off you go." And he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll go." And the first thing, he comes across these bandits, and they nab his horse, and they're like, he's like, "Why do you need to steal my horse?" And they're like, "Well, we're going to eat it.
Yeah,
we could eat for weeks off this horse." And he's like, "Wow, it's that again. It's that bleak that they have to bloody eat somebody's horse just to survive."
Yeah,
and it's scary. But these bandits aren't necessarily the bad guys. But then neither are the bounty hunters.
No, because they're literally responding to adverts. You see it in Western films, you see it in Western video games like Red Dead Redemption, things like that. You pick up bounties, to hunt, criminals.
Yeah.
So if somebody's posted that these people are criminals, I want them hunted down, then the bounty killers are going to ride in and go, well, there is a job here, so I'll do the job so I can get paid and feed my family or feed myself.
And this is in line with the law. This is, they're not outside of the law doing it. They're not vigilantes.
Not entirely, no.
They are hired to do this. But then there's instances, especially with Loco, where he could take them alive. They're willing to go alive because they're basically dying, and he just goes,
finishes them off horrifically as well.
And even the colder aspect, literally and figuratively, is he leaves their bodies in the snow.
Yeah,
he's like, "I'll come back for them." Doesn't even bury them. He just goes.
It's a form of brutality, isn't it? Where he's like, "Oh, let them suffer that little bit more."
Doesn't even respect them enough to bury them.
Yeah.
He just leaves them, covers them up with a bit of snow, and
they refuse to get paid. They don't pay him at one point because he comes in with 3 bodies, and it's like, "Well, hang on, you said there was 4." He goes, "Well, I've left one."
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, you're not having your money then."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay."
Is this how it goes?
Yeah. And obviously, when he does get the money,
Yeah.
But it's such a good film. Such a good film purely for that. I mean,
so many layers.
Yeah.
And the thing I had initially, and again, going back to that moral ambiguity, the thing I had, I initially I was like, you know what, Loco, supposed to be the villain. I don't think he's that bad.
No, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it?
And initially I didn't really, again, because of the subtitles and the quite jumpy aspect of the opening, which I think is probably, it's good, but it's very the tone.
A lot happens.
Yeah, a lot happens in a very quick amount of time,
and then it's slow.
And then it's a slow build to the end.
Yeah,
and I think that's the issue I had. I was like, I'm paying attention to all this detail. I didn't pick up that the bandits were forced to be bandits until much later in the film.
Yeah.
So I didn't think he was all that bad. I was like, And he decided to kill him, sure, but he's dead or alive. He's still wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
So I didn't think it was only till kind of again the ending where I was like, actually, no, he's pretty awful.
He's
a human being.
Bad person. But yeah, the whole journey of Silence is, as the hero, again, it's really, really multi-layered. I still don't know quite what to make of his journey.
Because the thing with Silence as well, he's not Silence is basically a character who was a child, and bounty killers came for his parents in a similar situation.
Well, he came for his father.
Sorry, came for his father.
And his mother got killed in the crossfire.
Yeah.
And basically they went, oh, he's not going to say anything, is he? And then the lead guy who becomes the capitalist lead member of this bounty killer gang, who is eventually revealed to be the capitalist, goes, oh, he's not going to say anything, and pulls out a big massive knife and cuts clearly his vocal cords. And that's where you get the character of Silence, who can't say anything because he reveals the cut across his neck.
Shows, and you see, and apparently it's because the actor couldn't speak Italian or any other language apart from French.
So they basically went, oh, don't say anything.
Your silence. It's great. It's going to be the great silence. Il grande silenzio, as it's known in Italian.
That was delightful. Say it again.
Il grande silenzio.
Delicious.
Delicious.
Put
Italian.
that on your pizza.
So we have this.
Would you like any Il Grande Silenzio? Yes,
Il Grande Silenzio. Yes, I'll have the Il Grande Silenzio.
You want any pepper? Oh God!
Can I have some parmesan, please?
Where have we gone?
So we have this. We had the slitting of the throat while he was a child.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about Silence is he doesn't draw his gun until somebody else draws his gun. So
because then it's legal.
Yes.
Then he's not a murderer.
Self-defense.
And you see it early on in the film.
He's not a bounty killer. He kills bounty killers.
He waits for somebody to react. So at the start of the film, it's like really, really tense. And it's like he's just stood there in the middle of nowhere. And then somebody jumps the gun, don't they?
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to get him now. Yeah. As soon as he does that, then pam, 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 pam. He's using like it's
a Mauser.
I was going to say it's a Mauser pistol, so it's an automatic pistol. So he does the whole cocking back the hammer thing, which you don't need to do.
No.
But it looks better.
Yeah.
But the Mauser pistol just obliterates everybody. Yeah. So, but every single encounter...
As they say in Phoenix Nights, a Mauser! It's a Mauser!
Jesus Christ. As if you just referenced Phoenix Nights.
Phoenix Nights.
Piece of shit. I hate you.
I know.
Oh God!
But yes, that's right. So he's got the.
Referencing Phoenix Nights
in the Western month. I have to reference Phoenix Nights. It's only proper.
Oh, my Lord.
So yeah, but the thing about Silence is he's not as honourable as you think.
No, he's not.
He actively fucking provokes people.
Yeah, he goads people.
He will goad people. He's like, I'm waiting for you to do it. He'll do anything. There's a fucking brilliant scene where he's been hired by Pauline, whose husband has been killed because he was one of the bandits, and Loco decided to just kill him instead of taking him alive, which he could have done. So she hires Silence to kill Loco. He's sat in the bar with Loco. Loco's having a poker game or something like that with all these other guys. And Silence... he lights a cigar with a match.
Yeah.
And just casually tosses the match into Loco's whiskey.
Yeah.
And he...
It's like that brief moment when you're like, oh,
what's he going to do? And Loco knows this. Loco knows that he only draws in self-defense. Yeah. He will only do that if he's provoked. So I'm not going to draw. I'm not going to play his game. Yeah,
well, the first instance when the match goes into the glass, he kind of looks at it. He kind of looks at the corner of his eye as if to say... You motherfucker! I'm going to shoot you. But then he sort of like slowly raises the glass.
Yeah, he goes to drink it, doesn't he?
Picks it out, and then chucks it on the side, and then goes to take a drink, and then Silence throws the cigar in, and he looks again and goes,
"Son of a bitch!"
And that's when you go, "Oh shit!" He knows. Yeah. He knows Silence's game immediately, and he picks out the cigar out of the glass, and then takes a swig, and then goes. I'm not going to draw first. And immediately the whole thing just gets upended because Silence doesn't know what to do.
Flipped on its head.
Because Silence literally has no idea what to do at that point. He just kind of goes, oh shit. Yeah.
He's not an official bounty hunter. There's no bounty on Loco. Yeah. So it would be an illegal act to shoot him, to kill him. So that's
he tries to convince him to come outside and
fights him, throws him through a wall, punches him, and then Loco does go to draw him when his back's turned. But then the sheriff grabs him and goes... Because the sheriff has a real issue with him. Here's an interesting fact. Apparently, on the set, Klaus Kinski is known for not getting on with people on set.
Yeah, the guy who plays Loco.
Yeah, the guy who plays Loco. Big German guy, these big blue eyes. Very kind of creepy looking guy. Great actor though, absolutely fantastic.
Perfect.
Great in this role as well. He works with Oh God, what's his name? I've forgotten his name again. It's the director.
Werner Herzog. Werner Herzog, yeah.
Werner Herzog. He works with him a lot. There's a documentary called My Best Fiend, which is about their relationship and how they never got on, but they created some fantastic films and fantastic work. And I think there's one about one of the films they did called Fitzcarraldo, which is about getting this massive boat up a hill.